Hello. This episode of Sort of the Story is going to cover themes of abortion, because obviously this is in the rhetoric right now, and we are screaming our heads off about it. And we are doing our best to have inclusive language, but if we sometimes slip up, just know that we support everybody with uteruses, anybody who needs medical care, especially those who right now are at risk of not receiving the medical care they need. So keep this in mind. I think we do a pretty good job in this episode, but we're humans and we're sitting here drinking so much wine and we make mistakes.
Yeah, we're learning and we're trying to be better about it, but we're still trying.
We wanted this episode to be about education, to be about a little bit of history and release. We tend to rant a lot, as you guys know, and hopefully you get something out of this and you have something to go research later. All of our notes will be in the show notes. So,
love you.
We do. We love you. And
you.
Enjoy this bummer of a week. But the episode's pretty good. Bye.
Bye.
Hello, and welcome to a very special episode of Sort of the Story. This is sort of off topic. As you guys well know by now, especially those living in the US, on June 24th, 2022, the Supreme Court officially overturned Roe v. Wade. So naturally, Max was gone that weekend, which means that I was in the house alone for most of the time, and losing my fucking mind.
Yeah, I had the fortunate coincidence of being out of town visiting family, which meant that I got to lose my mind in small chunks at the beginning of and the end of the day when I was alone.
Yeah.
Which is a luxury that I cannot overstate the importance of. But
And I was just at home going Pepe Sylvia on research for why the fuck isn't abortion mentioned in the Constitution, and guess what? There's a reason for that. So today, on this very special episode, I am going to be telling Max all about the history of abortion in the United States, both pre-legalization and illegalization, and post.
we also have some resources for you guys. If you want to donate money, the NNAF, the National Network of Abortion Funds, they help get money to more localized, smaller funds for people who need abortions, helping them cover travel expenses and things like that, as well as the cost of procedures and other associated expenses, which are not insignificant. So if you can donate, please do it there. We also have more resources that have been recommended. If you want to go to the website, choice.crd.co, they have more information, resources, and everything like that, just in terms of the basics of the topic and resources for donations and volunteering and things like that. Protesting.
If you yourself are in need of an abortion, they have everything they need, like you would need for that information.
Yeah. And just a reminder, when you're protesting, leave your phone at home if you can. Police can force you to unlock your phone using Face ID. Also, don't wear contacts, wear dark clothing without any marks, cover up any tattoos, bring a bandana and lots of water, and don't forget to wear a mask because COVID is still a factor. If you have long hair, cover it up. Just make sure that you're practicing safe protesting. You can look up more resources on how to protest safely online, but just be aware that there's a lot of retaliation happening with protests, and we don't want any of you guys to get hurt. So.
Guys, we are truly in the darkest timeline, and we love you, and if you're interested in more information, I'm about to give you a shit ton. So.
Yeah. I'm so excited.
All of our resources are going to be in the show notes, but we love you, and let's just get started.
Yeah, let's get doing it.
Sort of off topic. Okay, Max.
Okay, Janey.
When you were gone, I went down a rabbit hole of searching for information on how to make this make sense.
It doesn't.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't make sense. But most of this is from a wonderful, wonderful article entitled How U.S. Abortion Laws Went from Non-Existent to Acrimonious by Aaron Blake Moore for National Geographic. And I say mostly because they also included so many sources from throughout history and they're amazing. And so many interviews with experts, and I read every single one of them. I read a book from the 1800s. It made no sense, not just because they were spewing racist nonsense, but also because it was written in the 1800s, and that might as well be a different language. That's not English.
Yep.
It's not my English. Okay, so I'm just going to go into it. Because the big question, of course, is why isn't abortion mentioned in the Constitution? That's the big argument that is put out to us constantly, is that it's not protected by the Constitution because it's not mentioned in the Constitution, right? And here is the reason why. Can you guess? Why didn't they put that in?
Is it because the Constitution was written by white cisgendered men?
I mean, yes. Yes, but it goes a little bit further than that. Abortion wasn't even really called abortion at the time the Constitution was written. Instead, it was something that, by some estimates, 35% of people with uteruses used in order to end pregnancies they didn't want. Nobody really talked about it. You could get over-the-counter medicine that would help you restart your periods, and it was considered a woman's issue. So it wasn't legal the same way that chewing gum isn't legal. Or you can just do that. They don't need to write a law for that.
Oh, God.
It was just a thing that was available and open. Let's talk about it. Shall we?
We shall. I also want to mention, I don't know whether this is a true fact or not, but it is one of those like little factoids that I see circulating a lot of times, which is that there used to be a completely natural and safe contraceptive herb that was so effective that in ancient Greece, they used it so much that it went extinct.
Oh,
because it worked so well.
They overused the magical abortion herb.
It was a contraceptive.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I've never heard that. But
the fact that it's still being debated whether women can have contraceptives when they were literally used to extinction.
They were also, we know that women can because they were doing those in fucking ancient Egypt. It's like one of the facts, like the crazy facts that people always, okay, I'm going to stop screaming and just tell you really, really calmly.
I'm really excited.
Okay, Max.
Okay, Janey.
Buckle the fuck up. So, before pregnancy tests, Max,
Janey,
believe it or not, most people didn't truly know if they were pregnant until a certain time, right? Mm-hmm. You might realize like, oh, I missed my period, right? But as we know, as two people with uteruses that have had periods, that's not always a reliable system of telling whether or not you are pregnant.
I also found out this week that doctors, when they calculate how pregnant you are, if you miss a period, you are medically considered 4 weeks pregnant.
Fucking. So already if that 6-week law is put into effect.
Yep. And if you, for example, if sometimes you have spotty periods and you miss a month and it's not abnormal and then you don't notice until the next month, you are now 8 weeks pregnant. So it's guys, insane.
This is also a huge, like this already, because we're so fucking mad and there's so much information going around. You do not legally have to answer that question. If a doctor asks when was the date of your last period, do not tell them. Don't tell them anymore. That's it. Just say, I'm not disclosing that. You do not legally have to tell them that. They still have to treat you, but you do not legally have to tell them anymore when the date of your last period is.
Also, for people who don't have uteruses and haven't experienced periods, knowing about your period is kind of like knowing when it's going to rain. Like you can, if you pay really close attention to the signs and you track how it happens and everything, and you like look for it leading up to it, you can tell your period is about to happen. But more often than not, people who have periods find out as they're having the period that that's happening. So it's not something where you spend you're not structuring your life around having a period. It's something that you're at the grocery store and you are trying to decide whether you want brown rice because people have told you that it's healthier, or whether you want white rice because you know it's tastier. And then suddenly you're like, oh God, well, shit, I'm having my period.
Also, it's not clockwork. Everyone thinks it's fucking clockwork.
It's not.
And for many people, they can go months without getting a period and then it starts again. Or they can have a period that lasts for a long time. It just...
I have an IUD. I have spotting every third month. Which means that if my IUD failed and I became pregnant without knowing it, I could go
whole
up until
time.
about the 6th month before I realized that I was pregnant.
Yeah.
And that's long past the point at which any medical abortion would be possible, but it's also
And you cannot have a viable...
an unviable fetus.
If it is we have to talk about this later.
Yes, yeah. Anyways,
but that is a huge issue as well. It's just this is ridiculous that we even have to talk about this. But I'm excited to tell you about this history. Okay. So before pregnancy tests, most people did not truly know they were pregnant until something called the quickening.
Oh.
Which sounds like a movie by Jordan Peele.
It kind of sounds like an M. Night Shyamalan movie also.
Oh, it does. It sounds more like an M. Night Shyamalan movie, yeah. So, the quickening was when they started to feel...
Sorry, it sounds like if M. Night Shyamalan directed a movie of The Flash.
Oh, where's that movie, okay? Obviously, it can't star Ezra Miller because we've lost them, but literally can't find them. And the recording of it all. This is the
Back to the story.
This is the darkest timeline. Oh, okay.
They didn't know that they were pregnant until they experienced the quickening, which is...
when the fetus starts to move. That can be fairly early, but about the latest time you're going to start feeling a fetus moving is 20 weeks. 20 weeks in.
Mathematically, about 5 months.
Yeah.
Just took me a second to do that math, but...
Second trimester, they start feeling the fetus move, which
More
is when
than
they're like...
halfway through a standard length of pregnancy.
Yes. Here's a quote from A Manual of Midwifery by Dr. Michael Ryan, 1841. Quote, "Some women count from the period of quickening, which usually occurs at the middle of pregnancy or about the 20th week. In fact, what we think of as early induced abortion now, in the 19th century, was not considered an abortion. If it was that early, like the 6-week marks, and for some reason you're like, oh, I think I'm pregnant, what they would call it was they say the pregnancy had slipped away. Or they would say, quote, the menses have been restored," which is very official. By the way, this is a direct quote from the University of Illinois historian Leslie J. Reagan in her book, When Abortion Was a Crime. So, all of these little things if you want to read them. At this time, right, we're going to say the 1800s, women regularly kept herbs like savin, tansy, and pennyroyal in their kitchen gardens, and they would make like a tea for themselves with these herbs that it had been passed down from generation to generation, from mother to daughter, that, yep, these ones will start your menses again. And they would make themselves a tea, and they would drink it at home, and they would, quote unquote, clear obstructions or cause menstruation.
Just as a note, please don't drink any herbal teas.
I'm going to go into
to
this
try
later.
And induce an abortion unless you have a very good source for it being a safe thing. There are lots of people who, Google how to induce an abortion using an herbal tea and then end up hemorrhaging. So please, please be careful.
So the reason why this was something that was so common was because this was information that was passed down, because it was so common. Everybody had these herbs and they knew how to use them. There is a reason why we don't know the ingredients anymore. And I'm going to go into that in this article. But guys, listen to Max. There's a reason why we don't know what they are anymore. And if we keep trying to figure out that perfect recipe on human subjects, you can genuinely hurt someone.
Especially, again, if you're just Googling it.
No.
There are some very unreliable resources.
And you have other options. The good news is, if there's any good news, you are not out of options. Go to choice.crd.co and you will find your options there. You're not without options, even if you are in one of the super strict states. Okay, so this was a private decision they could make for themselves at home. They didn't have to tell anyone it was happening. Many people didn't know, and they would just go about their day. It was considered fairly normal. She would also consult with a midwife to help the pregnancy slip away. So if you're at the 20th week at quickening, obviously you can't just drink an herb, right? Mm-hmm. It's not the same. And so then she could consult with a midwife. How do I do this? Or she could get an over-the-counter medicine or douching device from the local drugstore.
Terrifying, considering that another weird fact that I know is that Lysol, the disinfectant, was originally designed as a hygienic douche.
I will talk about Lysol later, too.
Oh my god.
I'm not going to go
Absolutely terrifying.
It is terrifying. It's not great. Okay, so the Handbook of Domestic Medicine, which was a common book that people had in their houses, had a section on emmenagogues, which were substances that promoted uterine bleeding. So they didn't outright say, like, hey, this will get rid of a baby, but it was like, hey, have you not had a period in a while? Here you go. And they had whole chapters just on things that would start uterine bleeding again. Because again, this was something people did regularly.
Also, you can be pregnant and still have
A period. Yes.
Also.
Yeah.
So another terrifying thing about trying to determine, 6 weeks is the hard and fast rule or whatever it is. That's another terrifying thing, is that you can have your period and still be 4 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
There's no way to be sure. Pregnancy tests aren't 100%. Plan B isn't 100%. No contraceptive is 100%. Sometimes, including abstinence.
Yeah. Sometimes things can just stack up against you.
Yeah. So that's another reason why trying to make it into law how we should treat people's bodies and not consulting doctors and people who are experienced in the profession is terrifying.
Yeah. It is really upsetting. So why was this so common? Why were so many people just knowing how to make abortion teas and shit? Why were so many midwives dealing with abortions? Because it was a common issue. Many reasons that aren't too different from today, to be honest. Lack of contraception, lack of sex education, not knowing how pregnancy works. I mean, look, we just watched Bridgerton. She had no idea, and many people didn't talk about it. Having a child out of wedlock, scary. So it's like socially, your whole life and career is over. The shame aspect and the family abuse and stuff like that, like obviously you wouldn't want to keep that baby. The dangers of childbirth, and also not being able to afford to raise a child, having multiple other children. None of these are too different from what we're experiencing today. Women and people with uteruses back then were dealing with the same shit, maybe on a slightly higher level in a lot of these cases. Also, the average woman in 1835, I loved this fact, because thinking about this, I was like, if it was so common, how come people had so many kids? The average woman in 1835 would give birth more than 6 times in her life. They were still having a bunch of kids, which also makes you realize how many people were ending pregnancies after they already had 6 children to take care of. The mortality rate, though, was also super high. And here's a quote from Judith Walter Leavitt from Under the Shadow of Maternity, American Women's Responses to Death and Debility Fears in 19th Century Childbirth. So the quote is, "Women knew that if procreation did not kill them or their babies, it could maim them for life." And it was extremely common. So by some estimates, up to 35% of 19th century pregnancies ended in abortion. And even with that number, they were still having 6 or more pregnancies, or like births.
Yeah.
Okay, all of this is white women. Enslaved women, because in the 19th century, there were still enslaved people. America practiced slavery on a giant, horrific level. Enslaved women did not have the luxury of choice. Their children were seen as property. And as such, when they were impregnated, or if they got pregnant on their own naturally, which both happened, of course, oftentimes they were watched very closely and monitored and went through really upsetting checks to make sure that the pregnancy was still viable, that they hadn't done anything to harm it. And if they lost the pregnancy, they were often punished. So another way of stripping choice away from women in a horrific fucking fashion. This country is great. Even still, women's reproductive medical care was often left to Black midwives who practiced folk medicine, because they were people that knew how to take care of women's reproductive health. The same thing as everything I've been talking about, information passed generation to generation from mother to daughter to mother to daughter. Some enslaved women did things like chew cotton roots or ingest calomel or turpentine to induce abortions. So dangerous things. When they took away their choice to have safe abortions at home and make the decision for themselves, they started doing things like swallowing turpentine because they didn't want to have a baby that was born into slavery and then sold somewhere else later. So it's important to mention this because when we talk about the abortion discussion, when we talk about the history of abortion, we tend to talk about white women as like every woman was going through this. And that simply is not true.
It always has been the case that people in the upper echelons of society who have money to spare and who have reputations to maintain have always had access to abortions. The legalization or banning of abortion primarily affects people who can't afford to have an alternative, you know?
Yeah.
It's never, I mean, I know that it's been said 100,000 times, but you can't outlaw abortion. You can only outlaw safe abortion.
Yeah.
Because people will find a way.
And we are seeing it here in a very racially divided system, is white women were able to have safe abortions, and they were very effective, and they were safe because everyone knew how to do it, and they were completely normalized. But enslaved women, not having that choice, were doing things incredibly harmful that could cost them their lives or their livelihood. And they were still doing it. And that just shows you. It just shows you.
It just shows you.
Okay. So, for middle and upper class white women, though, pregnancy and abortion was seen as a women's issue, and they were given a wide berth of privacy. So, if you want, we can take a quick break, because we need to refill our fucking alcohol. And
There's
when
no way of getting through this otherwise.
No, we're drinking, guys. I hope you're drinking with us if you can.
Or not.
You know, and if you can't, then I hope you're at least eating something delicious. Maybe wrapped in a nice blanket. So let's take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the first state that codified abortion into law. Any guesses? Codified,
West Virginia.
abortion law. You think West Virginia? Okay, let's take a break and we'll come back. Come back later to find out.
Later.
All right. In 1821, Connecticut became the first state to codify abortion law. Would you have guessed it? I wouldn't have.
I forget that Connecticut exists a lot, I'll be honest.
I can't remember if Connecticut is a red state or a blue state, but my mind says it's a blue state. But it might be because it's so close to New York.
Yeah, it's in the New England area, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
Okay, and we don't want to look that up.
Nope.
Fucking do it yourself, God! All right, this law punished any person who provided or took anything with the intent to cause the, quote, miscarriage of any woman, then being quick with child. So,
oh, wait, I'm sorry. Was this outlawing abortion?
Yes, it was. Yeah, sorry.
Oh, I thought you said which state was the first to...
I did. I said codify abortion into law.
I thought you meant legalize abortion.
What I meant to say was the first state to codify abortion law, and I said codify abortion into law, which does kind of imply that it's legalized. Apologies, this is a nightmare scape. Okay, so we know...
I can't focus on anything because I'm full of nightmares.
And wine. Clink.
West Virginia seems like it would be the first state to be like, hey, anyone can have an abortion at any time for any reason.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh. I don't know that much about West Virginia. Except that for real, people in China told me that they thought that song was our national anthem. West Virginia! No. I don't know.
Mountain Mama?
No.
Yeah, West Virginia has a long and beautiful history of being very, like, politically left-leaning, pro-independence, etc., and they're great.
Nice.
West Virginia get a bad rap, but we see you, Appalachia. We know what you did.
Oh, you know what? Actually, this makes sense for you.
Yeah.
Okay. As a mountain mama yourself. All right.
Like, I can't say that I'm a mountain mama, but if you tell me that I'm a mountain mama, I'm not going to disagree.
So, patent medicines made everybody very paranoid because manufacturers could put anything they wanted in them and they could market them however they want. Mm-hmm. So they could get around all of these abortion laws by being like, cool. So, like, this doesn't help a woman miscarry. This just helps you get rid of no-nos in your tum-tum. Be like, what the fuck? But, like, they would, like, just specifically patent medicine, like, patent it, but they would, like, market medicine as, like, okay, so this is going to help you with your periods. And it's going to help you with them if they're not coming. So as more and more men went into the medical field, they began to insist that men, not female midwives, should care for women's reproductive health. Before this, it was like unheard of for men to be dealing with women's reproductive health. This was a midwife issue, and women didn't want men near them in that intimate of a way. It was very societally horrifying to think of a male doctor or somebody you don't know down there like that.
Especially in a society where being, I mean, again, we watched Bridgerton. It's like if you're alone with a man, your virtue is ruined. So the idea of being alone with a man in a context where you necessarily have to strip down to your nuthers is,
This is also not new. I listened to a whole thing on the podcast, Let's Talk About Myths, Baby. There was a whole episode on this exact same conversation with ancient Greek women not wanting men to deal with their reproductive health because it was considered very shameful. So, like, we're going in circles. But female midwives knew what was happening. They were using practices that had worked for generations, that was passed down knowledge from, mother to child. And now they're being pushed out by male physicians who said that no, men should be the ones caring for women's reproductive health. And of course, this means that more and more men are starting to track women's cycles and denounce abortion and be able to accuse women of having miscarriages on purpose, which is extremely problematic and upsetting. So this is happening more and more.
By the way, just as an add-in, if you use any kind of period tracking app, please stop using it.
There are ones, if you have some that you can find that are from the EU, like any country in the European Union, you should be safe with those. But yeah, we're in a hellscape.
Yeah, there aren't a whole lot of laws protecting information that is stored in apps, regardless of whether it's healthcare information. So if you have a period tracking app, please just, there are notebooks available where you can track it on pen and paper. And it's not as accurate and it's not as good, but it is better than having your privacy violated.
So the man to leave this movement of male physicians denouncing abortion was named Horatio Storer. In 1857...
So it's a stupid name and I hate him.
He's a stupid person and you should hate him. Good instincts, Max. Okay, so in 1857, he began pushing for the American Medical Association, barely 10 years old, brand new little baby. He began pushing for it to criminalize abortion. What?
The labor language you're using, he's like, it was just a baby, and he was pushing for it.
Oh, I'm a poet! I did not even realize that I was doing that. Okay, so... Thank you. Horatio Storer specifically claimed that abortion caused, quote-unquote, derangement in women because, quote, it interfered with nature. Again,
look, men will say that literally anything causes derangement in women. They'll be like, a woman went to a superhero movie. She's got derangement.
He hated when
she's
women
got the crazies.
Oh, she's got the crazies because of her abortion.
Literally anything that any woman does, like a woman will go to the grocery store and some man somewhere will be like, excuse me, what do you need food for? Huh?
What's that for?
Is it to fuel your devilish inclinations so
I really
want to go out and hooer?
Yeah, I would like some sustenance so I can go out and hooer.
Women are out here stealing our food products. It's like we earn those food products
Everybody
by
knows,
shopping at stores.
Everybody knows women are dainty little elves who only eat nibbles of breadcrumbs.
And why are they out there? Almonds.
This woman was out there buying a full cucumber. Whore!
What are you gonna use that for? Suzuki? I doubt it.
More like Safriki.
You're Safriki. And then it'll be like, hey girl, I heard you were Safriki.
Hey, why don't you come over to my house? No? Bitch! You're fat anyway! Anyway, this has been a skit from our minds which are rotting.
God.
Okay.
Every moment is suffering.
Guys, are you still here? Like, genuinely, are you still here? Are you getting anything out of this? Or are you just screaming into the void like we are? Might we suggest trying Buzzsprout?
Buzzsprout is a really great resource.
You can get a $20 gift card!
They help you with analytics, and they can help you establish a larger base.
Buzzsprout
communications. They also have a really great newsletter which gives you information about any kind of hardware that you can use for podcasting. It's a really great platform, and if you're thinking about starting a podcast, please check out Buzzsprout.
Maybe I can like scrub my brain with sandpaper, make it real smooth like sea glass. Anyway, so he claimed it caused derangement in women because it interfered with nature. surprising no one, absolutely not one single person listening to this podcast or living in the world at all ever. This became a deeply, socially racist movement.
Womp
Because
womp.
of course it did. Here's a quote from him, and then I'll explain it. This is a quote. I'm going to give a quote. It's from a book.
Ooh. All right,
What do you
fancy
think?
pants.
I feel so bad about having to tell you, but Horatio Storer, this man who's like, women are deranged, and it's their nature to have babies. What do you think the title of his book is? He wrote it in 1866.
The female orgasm.
He would never. Doesn't exist next.
It's going against nature.
What are you, Satan? Orgasms are for men only. Smack. Okay, his book is...
I know what he's not doing.
What?
Satan anyone.
Oh!
No satiation. No satisfaction, baby.
I know what he's
You're
not
fucked,
doing.
Horatio.
Satan anyone. I don't know if that would read on a t-shirt, but it's hilarious. Okay, his book was called...
These t-shirts aren't gonna read themselves.
This killed me, Max. This absolutely this took me out for like a day and a half. His book was called
$1 Million Baby.
Baby. You
Sorry,
know
I'll
that
stop making jokes.
you
Please
know
tell me what
that-
the book is called.
nobody had ever heard of any amount more than $1,000 in the 1800s.
That's true. I should also say I have not even the barest concept of what the movie $1 Million Baby is about.
Okay, his book was called Why Not? A book for...
Why not? What?
It's Why Not, colon, a book for every woman.
I'm
This
sorry.
is his plea for
Is it-
women to have babies, and it's called Why Not? This is a real thing.
I have to clarify. Is it why not and then the punctuation mark of a colon? Or is it why not colon? Anal sex for women.
No, but also I sense a sequel.
Woo!
No, it's called Why Not? A Book for Every Woman by Horatio Robinson Storer, 1866. And I'm so mad because I think the funniest book title for a medical doctor to put out, the funniest thing they could have picked was, why not? And it's by this racist motherfucker. Like, come on. Okay, so it's taking me 10 minutes to read this.
I'm so sorry.
So here's the quote. All the fruitfulness of the present generation, 1866, tasked to its utmost, can hardly fill the gap in our population that have of late been made by disease and the sword, while the great territories of the far west, just opening to civilization, and the fertile savannas of the south, now disenthralled and first made habitable by free men, offer homes for countless millions yet unborn. I guess they did have the number millions. I apologize. I will send you $1 as compensation later.
Oh, thank you. What if it was $1 million?
No, I don't
That's
have
a
that.
number that I have a concept of.
I only know 1,000, so. Shall they be filled by our own children or by those of aliens? Why not?
Why not get prego from an alien? By Horatio.
I told Alex about Horatio Storer, and I just basically quoted all of this to him, and he was like, never known a Horatio I liked. That made me laugh so.
God, I love that man so much.
Never known a Horatio I like.
He just gets to the core of every issue so elegantly, gracefully. It's like, okay, but I'm just saying his name's fucking Horatio. So
we should have known not to trust him. That's on you guys.
Also, I don't know, I know that you're partway through this quote, but overpopulation is a myth. So
Yep, don't worry about it.
it comes from eugenics. So it's not real, and if you think it's real, please do some research. If you are misled, like I was, just do some research. It's all about eugenics. Overpopulation isn't real. We have more than enough resources for everyone all the time, and also to be proper stewards of the land. Just as a quick little throw-in.
And if you need any more reason to stop fucking quoting that, when you quote that, you align yourself with Horatio Storer. And Alex has never known a Horatio he likes.
Okay. We're really sorry to any Horatios in our
I'm not
audience.
sorry. Do better. The bar is low, Horatio. T-shirt. Anyway, go to our merch store. This is a question. I'm going back to it, sorry.
It's okay.
Continuation. Are we going to let... Shall they be filled by our own children or by those of aliens? This is a question that our own women must answer. Upon their loins depends the future destiny of the nation. Spoiler alert. By our own women, he means white women.
Yep.
So, if you didn't understand this quote, and also we went on a weird tangent in the middle of the bar is low, Horatio, with more and more immigrants coming in, and I put down ironic, Horatio, and the end of slavery, which he was very upset about, white Americans were afraid they wouldn't have enough babies to compete for dominance. Horatio wrote a whole fucking book about it. Have more babies. White women, why not? He wrote that in 1866, and then he began to really push for this anti-abortion movement, right? Which previously had not really been a thing. In 1900, University of Oregon historian James C. Moore wrote in his book, Abortion in America, a book written in 1900 that I would like to read, that the U.S. had transitioned from a nation without abortion laws of any sort to a nation where it was legally and officially prescribed. And then 10 years later, every state in the nation had anti-abortion laws. Within 10 years of him writing this, every single state had a law against abortion. Many of these made exceptions for pregnancies that endangered the mother's life, but of course that means many did not. U.S. Postal Inspector Anthony Comstock made it harder to access information about how to terminate an unwanted pregnancy by pushing the 1873 Comstock Act, which made it illegal to send obscene materials through the mail. Of course, this applied to pornography, because men have always been creative about sending dick pics, but it also included information about abortion and contraception. So you couldn't send anything that had to do with this. And that was their big thing, 1873. This was how they started to try to, get rid of all that information. So how I was saying that every woman basically, had some sort of knowledge on either how to make their own tea that would start menstruation again, or they at least knew who to go to. Now they were starting to disseminate that information. And by, 30 years later, that was pretty much starting to become extinct, and people were starting to rely more and more on states that were more lax in their abortion laws. 1906, the Pure Food and Drug Act made it illegal to make and sell or misbrand any drug or medicine that provided safe abortions. Don't want them in there. And so by the beginning of the 20th century, under-the-table surgical abortions became more and more common. We're getting into the place we knew we were going. The big bummer. People who didn't know how to make the old herbal recipes were now having to get creative by drinking Lysol. And many tried to remove fetuses on their own. We also, of course, know that women tried to bathe in boiling water, throw themselves down the stairs. It was a horrific time if you needed an abortion and could not have access. Margaret Sanger, birth control pioneer, said she was inspired to teach women about sex ed and contraceptives because she personally treated a woman who died from a self-induced abortion. So that's what made her really want to promote birth control in women, because she was like, fucking, we need something. We don't have numbers for how often people died from self-induced or botched abortions, because they were all back alley, and obviously people didn't want records of them. We also didn't know how frequently women sought them, because of obvious reasons. But in 1942, Halbert Dunn, the Bureau of the Census's chief statistician, said that despite the lack of accurate reporting, quote, abortion is evidently still one of the greatest problems to be met in lowering further the maternal mortality rate for this country. Imagine being in the census and watching women, after these laws are taken into effect, watching how many women of a certain age suddenly just start to drop. Because it was a huge number. By 1967, abortion was a felony basically in every state, with very few exceptions for rape and incest. But in 1973, Roe v. Wade and Doe v. Bolton made terminating a pregnancy a legal right across the nation. And there's a bunch of things that go into the actual court case, which maybe we can do another day, but...
Another important thing to mention is that Roe v. Wade, one of the things that it protects is not only the right to a safe abortion, but also the right to privacy regarding your, medical health and things like that. And that's one of the things that's been overturned is, in addition to all of the, the marriage laws that are in question now and everything like that, it's now legal to pry into someone's medical history and things like that, which is a huge problem.
Yeah,
for obvious reasons.
there's a right to privacy for a reason. The 14th Amendment covers the right to privacy. And now an entire huge half the population is being affected by this law. Whether you agree with what we're saying or you don't, you are being affected. Your children are being affected. If you're a cis man, guess what? You're going to be affected by this. It's going to be a domino effect of rights being taken away because now we don't have the right to privacy. I don't know if you knew this. You probably did. But there already are laws in effect in, I believe, Texas for the number of dildos you can personally own. Did you know this?
No.
You can only own 6 dildos. And if you own any more, then they can get you on the on possibly wanting to distribute later.
What?
I'm just saying, that's already a weird privacy thing. I feel like not a lot of people get taken down for that.
Can you imagine, like, the Al Capone? Like, oh, they caught him in tax evasion, and it's like, oh, Al Capone, they got him on having too many dildos.
He's just... I'm imagining Scarface, but he's sitting at a desk covered in dildos and just sniffing every one of them.
I will... This is not a counterpoint, but just to add on to that point...
You have to play devil's advocate. I get it, Max.
We used to live in Fairfax County, Virginia, where it is illegal for, I believe, 5 or more women who are not related to live in one house.
What?
It is called the whorehouse law.
Obviously, they're not... That's hilarious.
Yeah, it has never been undone. That is still technically law in Fairfax County, Virginia. To the best of my knowledge, is no more than 5, or I think 5 or more unrelated women cannot live under a roof.
We almost lived in a whorehouse, and we let Robert move in. We could have lived in a whorehouse. I didn't know this. I would have petitioned for any woman to move in.
I was weirdly anxious about the possibility of living in a whorehouse.
Of the police
also,
coming to get you in your brothel. To be really clear,
this is the terminology of the law. Again, to the best of my knowledge, this is not any kind of, like, opposition to sex workers or anything like that. But this is just specifically, like, the legal reason for this. Again, to the best of my knowledge.
So I put a video up on TikTok where I did make the point where the problem, with pro-life, pro-life in general, with people who are like, I'm pro-life, is Max and I were talking about this. The fact that we have a 2-party system completely limits the human brain. Just in general, Americans aren't allowed to think except for in extremes. And so with pro-life, the pro-life argument, it does not allow for any exceptions. It doesn't allow for any further thinking. It doesn't allow for anything because either you are pro-life and you are with the party that you are in, or you are pro-choice. So you can't say, okay, yeah, if a 13-year-old is assaulted and then gets pregnant, she shouldn't be forced to give birth because that's an exception and that makes you a dirty liberal pro-choice. You know, like, it doesn't allow for any other thinking and also doesn't allow for them to focus on foster care or adoption. Because look at, very few pro-life people care about the quality of life that children are living in the U.S. right now.
Yeah. I saw a bunch of people who were at the protests in D.C. this past weekend. Lots of pro-life protesters who had signs. There was one couple who I saw all over Twitter, and it turns out that they're criminals. But they had a big poster that said, "Don't abort, we will adopt your baby."
Oh.
And here's the thing. There are babies up for adoption already. And if you haven't adopted any of them, I don't believe you.
Yeah,
you know?
A, no, you won't. But B, go adopt a baby that needs to be adopted.
Yeah, there are babies, there are children, there are teenagers in the system who need adoption. And even beyond that, there are adults who spent their entire lives in the foster care system and in orphanages, basically, and things like that, where they need a family and they don't have one. You can still become a mentor to an adult who doesn't have a family, you know, and that's not even an option that we talk about in the United States.
No.
So,
because, again, this conversation in general takes away the spotlight on people who need genuine help. And it makes it a legitimately, and I grew up extremely pro-life. I grew up in a very conservative household where everyone around me That was the only view I ever saw. And I was questioning a lot of shit when I was younger, and I was getting fucking beat down about it because how dare you question the system you're in? And so I stopped questioning. And I stopped that until I was like 23, 24 years old, and I had to unlearn all these lessons, and it was fucking painful. And it went step by step by step. It was slow and it was painful because I was having to distance myself from parts of my life and my family that made up who I was until that point. You can do it, but it's hard. And if you're in that right now during this extremely tumultuous time where human rights are literally being violated daily now in the US, I respect you so much because it's not easy. That being said, being pro-life at this point does not mean anything because if we were actually pro-life, we would have better healthcare and childcare and universal preschool for children and babies that we already have. We would make sure that every baby was actually taken care of. We'd make sure that parents had the means to take care of their children properly, which means access to mental health help, access to good schooling and jobs that had free childcare and ways for parents to take care of their children while simultaneously making a livable wage, which we don't have in the United States. And I also mentioned, this is what I got a lot of things at, is people were saying, I said, we would charge across the board if somebody murdered a pregnant person, then we would charge that murderer for 2 counts of murder. They'd be charged for 2 different people being murdered. And I got a lot of pushback on that. People were like, we do that. It's a double homicide. It's called feticide. Like, you look up your facts. Like, we already have that. The answer is no. 38 states have laws about killing pregnant people. In case you're keeping a tally, that's not all the states. That's not all of them, guys. I looked up Georgia's laws. Georgia is one of those. And it specifically in the wording of the law says they are only charged if you can prove that they willfully killed the fetus. So if they just, like, hit a woman with their car on purpose, but they didn't know she was pregnant, they're not going to be charged for 2 counts of murder. If they hit the mother of their child with a car because they didn't want to have a baby, then they'll be counted for 2 counts of murder. That's not the same thing as pro-life, guys. Really, if it was about pro-life, we would have way stronger laws for there. So just fucking get your shit together. We wouldn't be deporting people who are pregnant because we would know that, oh, they're carrying a U.S. citizen. But they're not considered a U.S. citizen until after they're born. So, like, just, it's very frustrating right now to hear such fucking ignorance spewed all the time.
There's a lot of hypocrisy in the laws of the United States. Like, it's like, again, on Twitter, there was someone who was like, hey, so I can, at 1 week pregnant, I can take out a life insurance policy on my fetus?
No, because miscarriages are so common that, like, if we actually did that, women would be paid that, like, millions of dollars in life insurance.
Yeah. Yeah, no,
right?
It's a stupid argument, and it's completely
it's the stupidest thing
hypocritical
ever.
And ridiculous. And it's crazy that we even have to... It's crazy that there are laws about that. And I don't want to reduce the idea of motherhood and of parenthood and of having a child. I don't want to reduce it to simplistic terms. But it would be like if all of a sudden we started having laws about, like, dentistry, kind of, where it's like, oh, you can't pull that rotten tooth. Yeah, because
it's
that's
part of your
full
body.
Of human cells, you know, that has bone cells of a human and stuff like that. These are decisions that should be made by you and your dentist.
Also, just in general, you're not allowed to have a law that attacks one specific group of people, which in this case are all people with uteruses. It doesn't attack people without them. So, like, very specifically, this is a super discriminatory law, but it puts everyone's lives in danger. And it does not even address cis men who are contributing to this. Pregnancy doesn't happen in a void. There's no immaculate conceptions here. It's a 2-person thing, and yet there are no, if we're going to put these strict laws in there, where are the laws regulating men who abandon their pregnant girlfriends? We have more laws protecting rapists, I feel, than we have laws protecting women who get pregnant and then are just forced to have this baby. Yeah. And also to everybody who's like, don't have an abortion, I'll adopt your baby. The only thing I can hear is, give me the child. I'll take the baby.
Sarah the baby.
Is this baby a boy? I would like, it's a girl.
Deliver unto me the boy child.
Jesus Christ. Also, don't give those people your baby. Hey, just because you want a baby doesn't mean you deserve a baby. Those people will not take care of your baby. They will raise that baby to be filled with hatred and self-doubt, to possibly grow up to spew hatred amongst other people, or they will have to go through the mental gymnastics of unraveling why they feel so bad all the time because they are not given to a family that accepts them. That's the only other options. Don't give your baby to the people. They don't deserve them.
Also, again, the U.S. adoption and foster system is completely overwhelmed. So if you really desperately want a child, if you want to adopt and you can't, I mean, not to say that the laws are fair all the time in this case, but a lot of times, especially when like strangers, people that you see who are like, I will adopt your baby. Like there are people who will do it, and I would even do it.
The people that want to fucking
A
fall
lot of
on the
times
sword.
there's for a reason. It's because, they don't qualify as a parent under the American adoption and foster care system, which again, I am sure that there are problems with it. I am not well versed enough to be aware of them, but also, just if you want to adopt a child so bad, then do.
Yeah. Also, just another thing that I keep having to, it's driving me crazy right now with all of the talk about adoption and fostering. Foster care is not so that people can find their perfect babies to adopt. Foster care is a safe place for children to live so that their biological families can work to make themselves better so that they can then get custody of their children back. The goal of foster care is to bring biological families back together. It should not be so that people can lurk on the outskirts and find perfect little babies to adopt. That's not the goal.
Nope.
Adoption is literally, in that instance, is a last resort, and then there are laws in place. You don't just get to go and try to pressure people into wrecking their bodies and ruining their lives and going through that hormonal upheaval so that you can have a baby and feel like a martyr. Ooh. So, if you want more information that we possibly won't have, I do recommend checking out Kira Omans, KiraOmans, on Instagram. She is an adoptee, and she was Pacific Miss Asian America a while back, and now she uses her platform to talk about adoptee rights. And I've personally learned a bunch about adoptee rights and how many people who have been adopted have been trying to get their voices out there to talk about the reality of their situations and how they have been specifically silenced by people who want to feel like martyrs for adopting children of color or children from other countries and then not giving the proper care because their goal stopped at martyrdom. So I highly suggest going there for more info. But yeah, guys, this was longer than I thought it would be, but obviously we have a lot of feelings.
I don't know how anyone can talk about this without
ranting,
losing their composure every 40 seconds.
I know. I'm going to put all of the information that I got, I'm going to put it in the show notes. We are also going to put links to choice.crd.co and also the National Network of Abortion Funds. And also keep on the lookout if you've made it this far. This is coming out fairly soon. Very soon, I will have something coming out. I've teamed up with a couple of other artists who have made some art postcards that are all pro-choice themed. Those will be available for free digital download on my website, and I'll put the links to that as well when they come in, and I'll also update our social medias. And basically these are free digital postcards that you can download and send to your representatives that are pro-choice in theme and that are honestly really cool. The art that's coming in is gorgeous. We'll also have those for physical download if you want to buy like just the whole set of already printed and really nice quality postcards to send or to distribute even or to keep. But if you do that, then we're going to donate the money to the National Network of Abortion Funds. So I'll update the social media on that. But just another way for you to feel like you're being productive is you could send a letter to your representative. Okay, guys, with that, we're going to head off. We love you.
Yeah, stay safe.
Stay safe.
We don't have that huge of a base at this point, which means that it's not unreasonable for us to say, if you want to reach out to us and talk about any of this, we can make ourselves available. We're here for you as much as you guys have been here for us. So
yeah. You can,
Yeah, it's sortofthestory@gmail.com.
yeah. And then maybe one day soon you could do an off topic about protesting. Guys.
I would actually love that. That's a great suggestion.
Okay, so coming soon. All right, guys. Have a good rest of your week. Bye.
Bye.
Hello.
Hi. So this episode concerns issues of childcare and abortion. We've done our very best to use inclusive language, and we want to make it clear that we want to support any listeners of any gender and sexual orientation, but we are still learning, and we are still learning how to practice that belief in our language. So please understand that we are trying to be inclusive, and we do want to include you. We might say the wrong thing, and
It
we're
might
very
happen.
sorry.
Yeah, but we support everyone with uteruses.
And everyone of anything. Anyone who needs an abortion, we want to be there with you.
What?
What? I don't know. We shouldn't have done this at the end. I had too many wine.
Okay.